Hello everyone and welcome to the Roundup, where we go through the biggest pieces of news and the best fantasy information from fantasylife.com to help you dominate your fantasy football leagues. We have a ton of buys to go through, we have a ton of injury news, so let's get you ready for week 7. We don't really know what to call this week. Bye Mageddon, bye Apocalypse. Basically, it is fantasy hell because we have 6 teams on a bye going into week 7. But do not worry, we have some players that you can go and pick up to try and plug into your lineups to help you get through this week. All right, let's go through some quarterbacks that you can use if you are in a pinch in week 7, like many of us are. Let's go through some names here. And of course, we're using the comparison tool on fantasylife.com on the Board Pro 75. But we've got Russell Wilson, Baker Mayfield, Sam Howell, and Daniel Jones. So let's go through some of these names. Daniel Jones is the one we have to worry about here a little bit because we do not know if he's going to be good to go in week 7. If he's not, Tyrod Taylor is going to come in and take his place again. But if Tyrod Taylor does play, move him to the very end of this list. You'll probably want to start guys like Joshua Dobbs or Kenny Pickett even ahead of Tyrod Taylor. But a name that intrigues me here is Sam Howell for the Washington Commanders because he is playing against the New York Giants. The New York Giants have given up 17.7 fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks since week 1. And we all know about this Commanders defense. They haven't put Sam Howell in many positive game scripts. So here are some options for you, but I like Sam Howell going into week 7. All right, now for some running back streamer options. Let's look at some of the names here. We've got Zach Evans, Jeff Wilson, and D'Onta Foreman. Let's start at the very end there with D'Onta Foreman. He is definitely a play you want to make this weekend because Roschon Johnson will be out for this game in week 7. So the Chicago Bears are taking on the Las Vegas Raiders, and I think this is a really good spot to start D'Onta Foreman again. Jeff Wilson Jr., again, this is another injury news related guy, but we're waiting to see if Jeff Wilson Jr. is going to be able to go in week 7. It does look like Mike McDaniel said that he is trending in the right direction. So if Jeff Wilson is good to go, you want to add him into your starting lineups because you want any piece of this Dolphins offense that you can get. So for me, I'm waiting to hear on the good news, but hopefully Jeff Wilson is good to go. Now, the last guy here is Zach Evans, and this is an interesting one with the Rams because Ronnie Rivers was placed on IR, and Kyren Williams looks like he is going to miss a little bit more time than we anticipated. Once he got that injury, we heard that he was going to be out for week 7, and now all of a sudden it looks like he could potentially miss all the way past their week 10 bye. So definitely someone to keep an eye on, but that means Zach Evans this weekend is a really good play. And of course, here are some pass catchers that you can look at in week 7 if you need a little bit of help. I think Rashee Rice for the Kansas City Chiefs is a really good name to know. I think that he is going to eventually be getting a bigger role. I really want him to be that number 2 behind Travis Kelce, so we'll see if he's able to do it, but he can hopefully get you some fantasy points this weekend. Jameson Williams is another boom or bust guy, but if you are in a pinch, might as well try and get some of this Lions offense if you can. And someone not on here because he is a tight end, but I do want to highlight Michael Mayer as well. He was the 2nd most targeted Raider in week 6. He finished with 13 fantasy points and as the tight end 5 in week 6. So Michael Mayer was definitely the waiver wire darling this weekend. But if you're looking at tight end help or anyone that you want to stash, it is definitely going to be Michael Mayer for the Raiders. A few weeks ago, we talked about the biggest fantasy underperformers and if we thought they would be able to turn things around. Well, going into week 7, I think we need a little bit more positivity in the air. So we're going to go through the biggest fantasy overperformers and if we believe they're going to continue. Our first fantasy overperformer is none other than wide receiver Nico Collins for the Houston Texans. Now, we've talked a lot about how damn good CJ Stroud has looked, but honestly, Nico Collins has been right there with him, and we can see why right here. PFF receiving grade 87.3, yards per route run, we're looking at 3.01, yards per reception 18.9, passer rating when targeted 135.5, and you can see on the side here, I mean, number 6, number 3, number 2, number 4, everything has gone really well for Nico Collins. And right now, like I said, he is operating as the wide receiver 11, and I think this does stick because of the volume that he's getting on this Texans offense. Even if the efficiency declines, the volume is always going to be there for him. Now, Robert Woods does lead the team in targets right now, but I'm going to let you know, Nico Collins has a 30.5% air yard share, which puts him in the same company as Adam Thielen, Puka Nacua, Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I really do think he is definitely going to outperform his ADP, and he is going to continue to crush it this season. Our other fantasy overperformer is none other than Lions rookie tight end Sam LaPorta. And let's look at just how efficient Sam LaPorta has been so far this season. You can see the PFF receiving grade here, 72.9. Yards per route run, 1.93. Yards per reception, 11.2. Yards after the catch per reception sits right now at 4.9. And then targets per route run at 25%. Again, we're going to look through these numbers. Number 2, number 8, number 9, and number 2 for Sam LaPorta. And if we thought that maybe Jameson Williams coming back was going to, cut him down just a little bit, it didn't. In week 6, he had 11 targets. He had an 81% route participation, which tied his season high. So honestly, guys, right now, Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews have more PPR points per game than LaPorta, but there's not many other tight ends you will be taking ahead of him. So Sam LaPorta, I think it continues. This Lions offense continues to feed him. Here we go. We got the unfortunate news this week that Anthony Richardson will be out for the season. He is getting season-ending surgery to repair that shoulder, and this is just a huge blow to the Indianapolis Colts. Now they will be turning to Gardner Minshew as their quarterback, and you, of course, can go to fantasylife.com to see where we rank these pass catchers now that Anthony Richardson is out. But we're hoping for a speedy recovery for Anthony Richardson, and he really did flash this rookie season. He had 4 rushing touchdowns, 3 passing touchdowns, and honestly, as much of a project as most rookie quarterbacks are, he proved that he was really going to have an incredible season because he was getting even better in the passing game. And we knew for fantasy football that he had that rushing ceiling that we knew every single week going into it. But here's hoping for a speedy recovery for Anthony Richardson and more games to come. We already talked about a rookie tight end that's doing absolutely incredible things so far this season. But what if I were to tell you there's another rookie tight end that you want to get in your lineups before it's too late? Let's listen to Dwayne McFarland tell us why we need to go out and get Michael Mayer.
When we look at his utilization over the last 2 weeks, in week 5, it jumped up to a 44% route participation. And in week 6, he took over the starting role with a 67% route participation. And while the team environment is not as nice for Mayer as what we saw with Rashee Rice, it's still not bad. We're talking about a team that is neutral in drop back rate over expectation. And we have Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah, he's not Patrick Mahomes, but we have seen Jimmy G support multiple fantasy weapons in the past. The other nice thing here is despite the fact you're going to have to compete for targets with Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers, 32% and 23% target shares, so that part is tough. But again, the nice thing here is typically the 3rd target on the team has been running back, Josh Jacobs, and the 4th target can even be a fullback because they don't use 3 wide receivers that often, so you're not contending with a slot wide receiver. So overall, that brings the grade for Mayer to a B. I think the talent profile is really good. In fact, I would argue the talent profile going back to college, it's better than Rashee Rice. The environment, not quite as good. Utilization, they're pretty close. Both of these guys, not full-time roles yet, but they are trending in the right direction. So I would be willing right now to drop Zach Ertz. I would be willing to drop Dalton Kincaid, another fellow rookie. I would be willing to move on from a guy like Hunter Henry. I think you're going to get similar production right away from Mayer, and you get better long-term upside.
Now it's time to talk about our underdog plays heading into week 7. And let me remind you again, make sure you use promo code LIFE, and Underdog is going to match your first deposit of up to $500. This is a limited time offer, so do not wait to go and do that. Promo code LIFE, and they will match your first deposit of up to $500. Now let's go get our pick'em plays for the week. All right, now that we're all logged in on UnderdogFantasy.com, let's go through some of our favorite pick'em plays this weekend. I actually want to start with this Buffalo Bills game going up against the New England Patriots, and I actually want to look for Gabe Davis on this one because I think we're going to go higher here on the 39.5 receiving yards. I think this one right now is really, really low, especially because we project him for 52.9 receiving yards on FantasyLife.com. He's also going up against a really banged up New England Patriots secondary, so I want to take advantage of that as well. So we're going to go higher here for Gabe Davis. The next game I want to go to, if we continue to scroll here, is Las Vegas taking on the Bears. And I actually want to go higher on the 0.5 rushing and receiving touchdowns for Josh Jacobs. So I'm going to throw out there, this is also a feeling that I have, but he has 2 touchdowns on the season, and I think he's going to get his 3rd this weekend. If that's not good enough for you, though, you can look at Las Vegas and say, because they don't have Jimmy Garoppolo, that some more of that load is going to go on to Josh Jacobs. They're also facing a Bears defense, which isn't incredible. So I'm going to go higher here on the rushing receiving touchdowns. The last one I want to look at is actually for, past it a little bit, is actually for Justin Herbert. Now, it's the Los Angeles Chargers going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, and I want to go higher on his 16.5 rushing yards. So there's another few reasons for this as well. On Fantasy Life, we project him for over 20 rushing yards, and he has actually gone higher than 15.5 receiving yards in 3 of 5 games. So I think this is a little bit low, and we can look at how high this total is for this game, and we can also tell a story where we think that Justin Herbert is going to continue using his legs like he has a little bit more so far this season. So we can scroll over here and look at what we have going into the weekend. Higher on Gabe Davis, higher on Josh Jacobs, and higher for Justin Herbert. Make sure you go UnderdogFantasy.com. Make sure you also use promo code LIFE and lock this in. All right, everyone, that was the roundup heading into week 7. Good luck with all the buys. Make sure you go to FantasyLife.com to check out all of our rankings, all of our projections. We are here to help you dominate your fantasy leagues, and we'll see you next week.